Tory sleaze nonsense. My name's Mike Cashman. I'm sure you know the drill. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe, get the books, get the music. But what about this Tory sleaze nonsense? I suspect that Tories who speak about this rely on the fact that 99% of people won't read the report. Well, here's the report. This is not the whole report, actually. This is the bit without adding on the appendices that say what the independent commissioner said and so on that the committee then considered. But even without that, there's 48 pages of it here. And sorry, I found it easier to read printed out. And I wanted to mark it up as well because I wanted to see what were the particularly damning bits. You see, the nonsense that's talked about this is that there was a lack of an appeal process. There's so many bits in here which are really, I sort of mark them with a red pen. You can do the same. The whole thing is available on the internet. It's easily available. But let's just recap what the process is. So the Independent Commissioner for Parliamentary Standards goes through the whole circumstance. The person who is accused of misbehaving has the opportunity to speak about the case, to put forward witnesses, put forward all the evidence. It's all considered by her, and she comes to a conclusion and writes a report. Now, that's not the end of the matter, because the MP concerned can then, in effect, appeal to his fellow MPs or to a committee of fellow MPs and lay people who go through the whole thing again and take into account the evidence of the independent commissioner, take into account what the MP, after considering the full report by the commissioner, then says. They go into it very thoroughly and they write down their conclusions very carefully. There are 213 paragraphs of it, goes the facts in each case and reaches conclusions. Is that the end of the matter? No. They make a recommendation, which then goes to the whole House of Commons, who are expected to act then in a non-party manner and to act on the facts of the case. So let's not say that this is something that there is no appeal from. If you look at the law, if you're going to appeal, you have to have some grounds for appeal. So you have to be appealing on, say, on a question of fact or on a question of law. Now, there is no dispute about the facts in the Owen Paterson case. You know, it's all a question of emails, phone calls, meetings that are minuted, and, you know, people know where the meetings were held, whether they were in his office or not, and whether he wrote on headed notepaper or not. There are a couple of minor breaches of the rules in here, such as using Commons headed notepaper, but there are a lot more major breaches. There is no dispute about the facts of the matter. Owen Paterson's case is essentially that, having raised what he initially claimed was a whistleblowing, a question of public safety, he then sought, I'm citing one of the cases, but it's typical, he then sought to propose his paymasters as the solution to the case. And he said, well, it's perfectly reasonable. I've raised a question of public concern, and I'm helping the public as well by saying who could solve the matter, at which point he's clearly lobbying for his company. Now, in terms of the law, i.e. the rules in this case that apply, Owen Paterson's situation, he freely acknowledges, is that he didn't know what the rules were. He didn't check them. His defence in several cases is, but I used my judgment. I'm elected for my judgment. So any appeal, if you go beyond the Parliamentary Commissioner and then the Committee of MPs, any appeal is, what are the grounds for that appeal going to be? He has impugned the integrity of the Parliamentary Commissioner, which he should not have done. The committee are very clear about that. He's perfectly entitled to say, well, here is my alternative opinion, but not to question her integrity. And what should have happened is that this report should have gone as is, without any attempt to change the rules to protect Owen Paterson, it should then have gone to the House of Commons for consideration on its own. We now hear from the Tories, it seems we conflated this with the question of Owen Paterson with a general question of whether there should be an appeals process. Oh dear, how did that happen? Well, it happened because they put an amendment forward which proposed to do exactly those two things. So it wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate attempt to use one particular case and a very specious argument about needing a right of appeal in a case where an appeal couldn't have done anything at all to change the verdict. They used that in order to try and destabilise the process, which, of course, many of those who voted to destabilise it are under investigation from. It's changing the rules because you don't like the outcome. Where have we seen that before? I'm Mike Cashman. If that's interesting, please subscribe to the channel. Britannia Waves the Rules. Thank you.